Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Welcome to Total Truth Show episode 99, the truth about domestic violence. This is going to be a very interesting topic today. Can't wait to hear from our special guest, Rhonda, who we'll introduce in just a moment. Firstly, Ken Kleinberg, my co-host. How are you going today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Excellent, thank you.
Amazing.
Feeling fantastic. Another beautiful day to be alive. Now, our special guest, Rhonda Shelley. Now, I've interviewed actually Rhonda on Media Queen TV a while ago about a completely different topic, so you can go back and look that one up. She is the founder of Regain Esteem, as she is a leading expert in personal transformation. She is dedicated to helping people break free from destructive cycles and rebuild confidence. Having overcome anger, low self-esteem, and the impact of alcohol abuse, she intimately understands how these struggles erode relationships and well-being. Through holistic coaching, trauma-informed therapies, and belief transformation, Rhonda empowers clients to heal, to diffuse emotional pain, and create lasting change. Her online programs, including Anger Management and Connected and Empowered Sisters, provide powerful support for personal growth. And I know Rhonda is an extraordinary lady. We are so excited to have you here as our guest. Welcome, Rhonda Shelley.
Thank you, Aldwyn. Thank you, Ken.
Really, you're welcome.
Amazing to be here. Thank you so much.
It's so great to have you here, and welcome to all our live viewers as well on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitch, X, wherever you're joining us right now. Welcome. We do like to make this show interactive, so if you have any questions at all as we're going through the show or comments, we would love to hear from you. Hey, Shah, Graham's just joined us on Instagram. Good to see you. Now, Rhonda, what an interesting background you've had. I'm sure people are wondering why this topic is so important for you and why you chose to talk about domestic violence today. Can you take us back to where it began for you?
So I experienced quite horrific childhood domestic violence. So it wasn't to me, it was to my mum. And I've just been looking at I'm sort of, without saying my age, getting there. And finding that I've spent so much time on personal development and trying to get rid of the effects of, the trauma that was caused from this. And more recently, I've had a few experiences with a neighbour getting angry at me all the time, some people I know quite closely where they've had issues. And it kind of triggered me again. And I got to thinking that, I was quite happy for quite a while. And then all of a sudden I was super triggered to the point where I wasn't going out anymore. I was emotional. It was taking me a long time to get over things. And I realized that there's issues with, has been issues throughout my life of, drinking, confidence. A lot of people who know me would say I'm quite a confident person. But when I got re-triggered, I just went into my hole. I found like I was like a turtle again, like literally pulled my head in, and it really affected me. And it got me thinking, well, there's all these children out there that are going through, the ones that are watching their parents fight, and, where there is domestic violence and where there is really horrible fight styles in families. There's so much that can be done, like, to at least minimize it, if not completely squash it out. That would be a dream of mine. If I'm an advocate for that, that would be awesome.
And domestic violence can actually take many forms. I've done a bit of work in this area myself. I've worked with, Magic, Multicultural Arts Group in collaboration. They did a few events around domestic violence, and it's not just physical; it's mental, it's emotional, it can be a spiritual attack too for those that are into the spiritual realms. And it can take many different forms. And often people could be in domestic violence situations and not realize that they're actually in domestic violence situations because it just feels like it's natural, or they feel that that's just how things are, or they become used to it. And often people don't know how to get out of it as well when they're in it. Like they have this comfortable situation with a partner where they just wouldn't know what to do if they left that partner, even if they're getting abused. And it could be male or female. This can go definitely both ways. I've heard of domestic violence, definitely, female to male and male to female. It's not always male to female. So definitely it can go both ways. And the main thing is, I guess, for people to get conscious to where they are in a domestic violence situation and how to navigate to remove yourself from dangerous situations. So what happened with your mother? How did she navigate back then, and how did you sort of come through it in the end?
Yeah, so the times Mum turns 86 on the weekend, actually, and she's still got PTSD. So, like, she's done a lot of work on herself as well, and she also had a couple of years there where she was great, and but there's times when it can just take the smallest thing to trigger you, and that happened to her about 6 months ago as well. Someone had a fall, and it just totally, like, she thought he was unconscious, but she thought he was dead, and it just really triggered her back into that space. But as far as I've lost my train of thought now.
So your mum's still got PTSD, you're saying? So she's done a lot of work on herself, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the issues for me. I actually do forget, and I do get confused easily, and which has also affected my whole life. So memory, shortness of breath, when you're in that fear state all the time, and we're literally now in a world where you don't even have to be in a DV or an abusive situation, where stress is just so prevalent in everyone's lives. It's get the 4 kids to soccer training and then get home and cook dinner, and whatever that is, whatever that looks like for a lot of families. Some families in larger cities are 2 hours in traffic each way. It can just be the smallest thing that sets off our nervous system, where we're in heightened state constantly. But yeah, symptoms for me that still happen are loss of memory and just shortness of breath, that sort of thing, and hypervigilant all the time. I'm constantly, what's going on around me. Loud noises can really trigger me. So there's so much that can be done just even with the state of stress. But you were saying before about the DV tag. It doesn't have to be physical. You know, mum went through a lot of name calling on top of the physical, and that can just crush you. There's so many women out there, and men, it happens to both. I'm not singling one out over the other. That it's really difficult to get through life when you don't have confidence, or you're afraid to walk out the door, you know. And in a DV situation, it's all in your home, so you're not even safe in your own home.
Yeah, absolutely. And the statistics are staggering. You know, I've been doing a bit of research into this, and they say that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 8 men just in Australia have experienced violence by an intimate partner or family member since the age of 15. And I've heard other stats say 1 in 3 people have been abused in some way, have had some form of domestic violence. When I look across global statistics, it's between 20% in the Western Pacific, 22% in high-income countries have experienced some lifetime intimate partner violence, 22% in high-income countries and Europe, 25% in the WHO regions of the Americas. This is from WHO, World Health Organization, which we know we can trust with some things and not with others. But anyway, that's another story. 33% in the WHO African region, and 31% in Eastern Mediterranean area, 33% in Southeast Asia. So it's a worldwide phenomenon. And really it's about 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women and about 1 in 8 men have experienced some kind of violence by an intimate partner or family member. So why is it, do you think, Rhonda, that people put up with this, and why is it? I mean, I always say hurt people, right? So I think people who are being violent in some way, or whether it's physical, mental, emotional, generally they've probably had some kind of abuse in their background, and it's following down through the generations.
It can be what your normal is. So if people are brought up in a situation where it is chaotic, then their normal can be chaotic, and some people will say, oh, no, I'm going to change that in my life. I want peace and calm. And other people are like, if they get someone super chaotic or abusive, or, a bit louder and crazier, or whatever the case is, then that's kind of not too far off their normal. Then you still feel comfortable. Like when I split up with my ex-husband, and I just want to say that there was no domestic violence there. But I went into a relationship where, so having experienced domestic violence growing up and seeing that with my mum, and then with my ex-husband, I won't go into the reasons why I left, but I then ended up with another partner a couple of years down the track. And he was super affectionate and all of this. But what I didn't realize, I would walk out the door at work and he would ring me. And then he'd talk to me the whole time till I got home. And then when my son got home, he'd get cranky at my son. And it took him being nasty to my son for me to actually say, no, that's not okay. Whereas when he was smothering me and controlling me, I couldn't see it because I'd grown up like that. So sometimes we can't see the cues. So I was super excited, like, oh, he loves me because he's, won't let me out of his sight kind of thing. And I didn't realize that it was an issue, to the point where I was walking on eggshells so much with him and there was no violence. Nothing at all, no fights. Oh, well, we fought, but nothing to the extent that, I'd seen growing up. But for me, it was like, oh, well, God, he's not punching me. That's a good thing. But it wasn't until he started at my son that I literally realized that, no, I'm walking on eggshells again, and he's not calling me names. He's not punching me. But I was too nervous to do anything. And when you're feeling like that, then it's not right. If you feel like you don't, trust somebody, or you're not allowed to walk out the door, or you can't go to the supermarket by yourself, or you get phoned constantly to check on where you are, then there's something that, like, not quite right there. You know, there should be trust in a loving relationship, and, you know, good ways to, you know, certainly don't fight in front of your children, I say. I was fortunate in that sense with my marriage. We didn't fight a lot. But I also made it part of my legacy that I would never, ever, ever put an ex down, especially my children's father. I would never do that, because it really messes kids up, you know. You know, when you're saying that this little kid's father is, you know, a mongrel, or giving him all sorts of names to the children, it then puts them out of whack as well. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It affects everyone around you. Now, interesting, the official definition of domestic abuse is an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, threatening, degrading, and violent behaviour, including sexual violence in the majority of cases by a partner or ex-partner, but also a family member or carer. And I've heard this all too much. They're people that you think you can trust that often this happens with. And it's there's a saying that people often treat the ones closest to them the worst, right? It's like they take advantage of the ones closest to them and tend to, you know, treat people like this. And often it can come from insecurity. It can come from, you know, that's where people tend to control, is because they're actually feeling very insecure, and they can often be very possessive, and, you know, where are you going, what are you doing, you know, and then people can be really under the thumb, or feel under the thumb by a partner. It's probably why I'm single, and probably why Ken's single, actually. We've got the freedom thing going on here. So, you know, this can happen way too often in relationships, where people are like strangling each other in the relationship by not giving the partner enough freedom, and also not doing the inner work, not doing the healing. And I think it's fantastic that you've done the holistic coaching, Rhonda, and you've done the trauma-informed therapies and belief transformation. What are some of the biggest learnings that you had through all the different healing modalities that you've done?
Yeah, so for me, it was really just trying to fix myself. And, you know, I started going to lots of different practitioners, and then I was like, oh, wow, that was really great. And, you know, then I'd go and learn it. And what I've figured out is, one, you really have to be going to the right person for what it is you're trying to achieve. You know, Reiki it can be great for you know, relaxation, but massive trauma, no. So you've got to pick the right modality. And what I found that what has really, really helped me was when I started doing the neurotransformational therapy, and literally like blasting different emotions and processing different emotions in my body. And there's a whole different there's a rabbit hole you can go down to figure out what the root cause of everything is. And the different, like, I've done a diploma of counselling as well. I did that about 12 years ago. And the difference between a lot of the energy therapies I've done and a lot like the traditional style counselling, I'm not a psychologist or anything, so I won't talk about that. But the going into, you know, talking about an event can be quite traumatic for a lot of people. Whereas a lot of the energy therapies deal with, or the NTT deals with the really just exploding the negative charge that you're holding in your body. And I found that for me to be very helpful with a lot of things. Even with all the stuff I've done, I still do stuff on myself to this very day. I don't know if I could look back at my younger self. There was, you know, probably 20 years where I felt really happy, but it was when I started to really be triggered again that, you know how they say you have a midlife crisis. Everything seems to come up in the middle. You know, some people go and buy a red car or a sports car, and me, I fell in a heap. Even though I felt really strong and confident and was doing this stuff all the time. And I see people come to me all the time struggling, and, you know, they'll come and say, oh, I feel unbalanced, you know, and a lot of the things I do aren't talking, so Palawa and Reiki and that sort of thing. Whereas, you know, when you delve deeper and get right into it, a lot of people really need the root cause, the therapies, you know, and there's lots of different people out there doing it. I run different workshops and one-on-ones with people. So, yeah, it's about finding that person you feel comfortable with, getting to the right modality. That can be frustrating sometimes, finding the right thing. Yeah. But for me, it's really, really, really important that everybody, every single person out there, whether it's just stress or whether it's like, you know, level 10 DB, everybody can do something to help the people around them and give their family a better life. And that's why I'm here today. It's about awareness of even something as simple as stress can lead to, you know, punching someone in the face or saying something wrong or really affecting someone's life by calling them really horrible things all the time. And believe me, I've heard some pretty horrible words over the years. But even at school, you know, after experiencing DV at home at night, I'd go to school and the boys at school, sorry, Ken, but it was the boys. Girls can be really catty and nasty as well, especially these days from what I see. That, you know, they've got a really horrible fight style, especially with social media and that. But the boys would call all the girls sluts, and it's just not on. When these girls, you know, 10 years old, 11 years old, getting called these horrible names from like a really early time, and by the time they get to the age of 16 or 18, you know, they're spewing in the gutter because they've got no self-confidence and they're drinking too much. I mean, it's becoming an epidemic.
Bullying's huge, and you know, it's been around since the beginning of time, and no doubt it's not going anywhere soon. And now, of course, we've got cyberbullying, and so this is where we can't control what other people do in life. We can control how we're going to respond to whatever comes our way, and this is where the inner work is so important. Doing the self-love work, doing the self-care work, because people will only treat you as you allow them to treat you. Right? Yeah. People only treat you as you allow them to treat you. Now, I was in a 4-year relationship from 18 to 22 with a man I thought I would be with together forever. And then right towards the end of the relationship, he lost the plot one night, strangled me, almost killed me through a psycho episode. And, you know, from there I was like, I don't need a man for anything. I was already independent, but I became even more independent. And here I am now, 51, never married, no kids, right? So obviously that's impacted me in some way. I've had lots of relationships, but, you know, it's interesting. I do tend to lose trust. Sometimes
happened to you and everyone out there that's happened to,
Yeah, you lose trust in yourself. You lose, like, you think, gosh, I thought I knew this person, and then you sort of beat yourself up about it, like, you know, and it can be absolutely devastating. And you know, I mean, luckily I survived that incident, but you know, that was the end of the relationship, and then I actually left town and went from Brisbane to Mackay back then and worked at the Daily Mercury as a journalist after that. That's going back, gosh, a fair while now, 30 years almost. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. Hello, Charlie. Charlie Pulchinski has joined us from Facebook. What are we talking about tonight, Charlie? This is the truth about domestic violence we're talking about towards men and women. Okay, domestic violence is the topic. If you have something to add, I can see Sydney O'Sullivan. Good to see you on Instagram. Robert Mull. Good to see you guys. Shah Graham. Wherever you're joining us from, we love you to be part of the conversation. If you have questions, questions, comments around the topic today, then please pop in the chat. Ken, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a relationship where you've had domestic violence, physical, mental, emotional, or have you experienced it around you?
It's more of I've experienced it around myself. I know growing up in my childhood, there was a bit of off balance. I mean, so thankfully there was no violence or anything like that, but I remember multiple times seeing how my dad like hurt my mom emotionally, and different things like that. And growing up as a kid, seeing that every time there was a situation that I experienced where I saw my mom hurt and he was the cause of it, I just remember that I just grew further and further and further away in distance towards him. And I lost more respect and more respect and more respect as the years went along. And then, when I became a Christian back in 92, I really feel like it's almost like a switch was flipped. I literally saw him for who he was. He was a hypocrite, an absolute hypocrite. He's one of those people that always would coin the statement, "Do as I say, not as I do." And as I grew up further after becoming a Christian, I just saw how hypocritical that was. And then I just really began seeing through him. And so that's kind of when things really started escalating, and a lot of speed picked up with that, in my own heart and in my life. And so by the time, what was it? I think 2013 came, and my mom finally made the powerful decision to finally let go and to divorce him, which was a phenomenal move. At that point, he was dead to me. And so I think about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, he finally did actually physically die. And it was interesting. I was sitting there and I was like waiting for something to hit me. Nothing. There was no feeling. There was no remorse, no sadness, nothing. Just plainly nothing. It was very neutral. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, there it is. Because I was expecting something to happen. However, in recent, like the last I would say the last 2.5 years, the journey literally started shortly before he died. I started kind of looking inward at myself at some of the things that had probably been there for many years, and just kind of like really started soul searching and searching for, ways to combat certain things that I had seen, in my own life, limitations, limiting beliefs, different things like that, confidence issues, all kinds of stuff. I had began to really started, looking at that and going, okay, these are still a part of my life. What are the root causes of them? Where are these rooted? And so I think in doing a lot of that soul searching and stuff, I'm still on that journey, kind of looking into that and trying to look at, different root problems of it. But that in a nutshell, that's been my experience with that. So, I mean, thankfully, nothing was physical, but he was that controlling person. Time after time, my mom, when they had their Havasu house, my mom would come back from the store, for example. And as she's unloading groceries, it'd be like, why do we need this? What'd you buy that for? What are you doing with this? Very interrogating. That's the word I want to use. And it wasn't just that. It could be she came out of her room in the evening time just to grab something to eat real quick. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? What do you need to do that for? Things like that.
Eggshell thing that I'm talking about, Ken. It's like it doesn't need to be something big. It's that, oh my God, that interrogation, that control, that watching you all the time. It can be silent in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah, as years moved on and as I kind of grew up more and more as an adult, yeah, he killed himself more and more in my heart until eventually he was dead to me. And I remember my mom saying to me when she got divorced, because she was kind of concerned about my relationship. I remember her encouraging, I don't want you to, to damage your relationship. I still want you to talk to him. It took her a while to recognize that he was already dead to me. He wasn't my father anymore. He was already dead to me. I wanted nothing to do with him. So, I mean, yeah.
I was on a train once, and this little child was about 3, and the little kid was jumping on the chairs, and the woman called him an effing C. The mother called the child some massive expletives. You little C, if you don't get off there, I'm going to smack you in the head, kind of thing. And I thought, what chance has that child got? What chance has he got? If that's his normal, the way his mother speaks to him, he is going to be one of these, kids that are, stealing cars at 12 years old. And, even though your experience was very, very different, they're still as bad as one another, because your mum didn't feel safe. She didn't feel like she could, do anything with any freedom. And we all need to stand up and say, look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what are we doing to our children? What are we doing to our partners? What are we doing to our family? Because this ripples out. Because you get the little cousins at a party and they're playing together, and there's one acting like his dad, or, calling one another names or whatever, and it ripples out. And it's not funny. People think it's funny. It's not funny.
No, and it can have serious consequences, and in multiple ways. They say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And the beautiful thing about your dad, Ken, is that he helped bring you into the world thanks to his.
Yes, that is the blessing, and I know my mom is 110% so grateful for that she's got me. So yeah, that is the good thing that came out of that. So that's, as you would say, Aldwyn, the good news.
The good news is you were born due to that union, and maybe there was some healing for your mum to have over that, and maybe some healing for you, because I do believe that essentially we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I do believe no one is better or worse than anyone else as a spiritual being, right? Although we do have some dark energies and light energies. However, I think behavior, a certain behavior that people display, you may agree or not agree with it. I mean, I'm all about, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. There's no need to be nasty to yourself or to others. And often I have found, in fact, I don't think I've met one person or seen one person who hasn't been cruel to others or been nasty to others who hasn't at some point had someone be cruel to them, or, it's generally, and I would imagine with your dad too, Ken, was your dad abused as a child? Did he go through?
I do believe he was. His mom was a drug addict. Oh my gosh. His previous marriage, which that's a whole nother issue, but his previous marriage was a disaster. Like, the woman he married was crazy nuts, and the kids he had with her, both of them were something's loose in their head. I mean, yeah, that was crazy. And then I later found out that my mom marrying my dad was actually her rebound, because she was actually with somebody else before him, and then he wanted to move to another country, and my mom didn't want to move to the other country, so they split up, and then my dad came into the picture, and he was her rebound. And when she told me that a few years ago, I was like, that explains a lot then. He was your rebound. Rebounds never work.
Yes. Yeah, it's this is where we come back to hurt people, and heal people, and it's up to us to stop that generational trauma, that stop that generational domestic violence that happens again and again. And I feel so sorry for the kid that you mentioned, Rhonda, that was being abused by his mother. I mean, that's absolutely horrible. No doubt the mother was abused. Who knows what the mother's partner was like or what the mother's parents were like. It comes through the generations. And I often say, in Australia, we tend to breed people like this. I mean, this is why we've got such massive youth crime in Australia and at the same time, massive youth suicide as well. We have a lot of mental health issues, and particularly since the pandemic, there's been even more mental health issues that have come about, from all the fear. And, here I'm co-creating a book at the moment called Fear to Freedom, Fear to Freedom. And I think this is the challenge that we are faced with. We cannot control what other people do. We can control what we are going to tolerate, what we are going to put up with in our life. And this is where having boundaries is so important, and saying no, and saying, that I am not going to put up with that. See you later, right? No matter what the situation, we do not have to put up with violence or abuse, any kind of domestic violence whatsoever at any point. You deserve better. And often I find that people who stay in these situations, they have very low self-esteem. So for them, it's very important that they do the inner work, that they do the healing, so that they are able to build up the confidence to be able to walk away from this situation. Now, in Australia, we have women in their 50s and above, the biggest homeless population as well. And I would imagine a lot of these situations are because a lot of these women have been in domestic violence situations, and then they find themselves that they do walk away, but then they're out on the streets. Where are they going to go? They're used to relying on man for income. And this is where a lot of people also can feel very trapped in a domestic violence situation, is they feel they have to rely on the partner for their survival, or for their kids' survival, or they're hanging there for the sake of the kids, and it can just be a shockingly vicious cycle. So, Rhonda, I'd love to hear from you on people who are in a domestic violence situation, whether they're conscious of it or not, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. What do you suggest? What are some healing steps that they can take, some things they can do to get empowered, to set some boundaries, to be able to walk away? What do you suggest they should do?
Well, number one is acknowledge it and be aware that you're in that situation. Because if you're not going to acknowledge it, you're not going to do anything. And that can be really hard, because what you're doing is saying the person that loves you, or who you think loves you, or you love them. It can be hard to let go for some people. I knew one lady, it really meant uprooting her children from schools, like changing phones. There were so many things she had to do so that this person didn't rock up on her doorstep or wait at the school for her. It's a lot. It's a lot. You literally pretty much need to change towns. And that happened to Mum and I when I was in grade 6. So we were transported out of the town with, I think it was the Salvos back then. And we were bussed down to Brisbane and put in accommodation, and they got Mum a job. And, but there was threats to get Mum back. And literally without the internet in those days, I don't know how that happened, how Dad found where we were. It might have been Mum ringing to check on the boys. I don't know. I have no idea. But there's so much pain and displacement and fear that goes on for people in this situation. And in Mum's situation, there was no single parent pension. Like, she had to get a job. She had to look after us. There was 4 of us, look after us kids, and do the whole mother-father thing. And fortunately, we lived in a small town. So they were the days where you didn't get dropped anywhere. You had to walk or get a push bike. So I think parents sometimes also need to look at, well, if the kids are old enough, obviously, like what independence can they be doing that it's not all on the mum as well? So, yeah. I mean, these days there's single parents pension and so many facilities and services. And I was chatting to someone recently. I was telling that I was going to do this, and it was a man, and he said, yeah, I had experienced domestic violence, and he said there's literally nothing out there for men. I don't know much about the courts because I didn't go through all that stuff, but it seems that the female can just say they've, been punched, and the father loses his kids, and, it's sucky for no matter which way you look at it. What I'm passionate about people just pulling their head in and trying to work on themselves, and so that their kids become, stable adults that, we're not living in, what's that Tina Turner movie? Mel Gibson. This, territorial warrior land, of survival in the next generation.
Yes, so important to empower yourself, to do whatever it takes to build up your own self-love, self-worth. It's interesting, kids come into the world, they're so vibrant, they're so out there, they're so innocent, and then they get shut down. They're and people get more bitter and twisted often as they get older. And as you say, having that awareness. In fact, 3 steps to healing that I heard many years ago from one of my mentors many years ago, Ben Harvey from Authentic Education. He said there's 3 steps to healing. First is awareness. Second thing is acceptance. And the third thing is appreciation. Appreciation is learning for the gifts, because at the end of every breakdown, there's always a breakthrough. Life is a roller coaster ride. It's so important to hang in there with the roller coaster ride of life. Life throws curveballs all the time. And the reason we often attract the same kinds of learnings, why people attract the same kinds of relationships, because we didn't get it the first time, right? The lessons keep coming. How long is it going to take before we actually get the learnings? And to be grateful for those learnings, because they do make you stronger. And, I think of Jesus on the cross. I think when Jesus was on the cross and people were giving him so much shit, right? They were giving him so much crap. And for him to be humble enough to say, as he's being crucified, to say, forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive them, they know not what they do. And if you can actually turn that forgiveness into appreciation, actually being thankful for the learnings, because we accept the behavior. We've got to take responsibility 100% that if we are in a domestic violence situation, that we are voluntarily there, because you can walk away at any moment, even if you've got nowhere to go, even if it feels like it's impossible. There's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You do not have to put up with domestic violence of any sort, right? And having strong boundaries, doing the inner work, looking for help. There are lots of amazing organizations out there that help people who've been through domestic violence. So actually doing the research and looking for support is a great thing to do too. And sending that person love. Whoever's been cruel to you, send them love. If you hold on to resentment for that person, it is like taking the poison and wanting someone dead. Okay, so having resentment is not going to help the situation. You just accept, okay, this person's going through a bit of suffering. Clearly, if they're being nasty to me, they're obviously suffering right now. And I feel for them. I have the compassion for them. However, I also don't have to put up with that, right? I can send you off with love. I can bless and release with love, right? So that's very important too, is to get conscious to where our state is and where our mental state is, where our physical state is, where our emotional state is as these things are happening for us. I do believe everything happens for us, not to us, right? Not to be the victim of the situation, right? If you have domestic violence in your vicinity, then perhaps there's some learnings for you around finding ways to build up your self-love and your self-confidence to be able to walk away from that situation. Okay. And I say this with love. I say, and everyone's situation is different, I'm sure. However, really, if you have a situation like that right now, seek help. You are not alone. It's very common. 1 in 3 people have some form of domestic violence, and a lot of people need healing out there right now, right? There's a lot of hurting people. We saw it all through COVID, right? How much did we see relationships break up over differing opinions, over the jab, for example, right? How, and that led to a lot of domestic violence through that whole period because of the external pressures of the fear that people had over what was being pumped out through the media channeling and programming, through the news channels. What we were hearing, some of it was absolutely unbelievable. And this is the thing, sometimes life throws curveballs. And then it's a matter, okay, how are we going to navigate that? And that's where the inner work, that's where it really counts, right? Is that when life throws curveballs, and a lot of you know I've had my mum in hospital the last 3 months. We just got her out recently out of hospital where she couldn't walk and she's got dementia and she couldn't even feed herself. I tell you what, I had a new appreciation for being able to walk and being able to feed myself. Witnessing my mum over these last 3 months, the things that we tend to take for granted, including our own health and our own willpower, and the fact that we have the choice, always, we have the choice with what we're going to tolerate in life. And if something's really bad, obviously report it to the police, report it to the authorities who can actually do something about it and get yourself into a safe situation, okay?
Cases, if you're unsafe, just get out. I mean, I can understand why people stay because they're scared. There's that fear factor, but your children are going to be scarred. Make no mistake, they are going to be scarred if they're seeing that violence constantly. Taking action is important. Get out. As Aldwyn was saying, it's the boundaries. It's like, I don't deserve this. It's building that confidence and becoming stronger so you can. I've actually got a DV cheat sheet on my website as well. I don't have the link with me, but obviously if you're outside of Australia, it won't work, but there's so many services locally for people that are, that you can Google and see what's available to you. I
think to add to what you guys are saying here. So I think too, so your action step is get out, right? And so another action that you can take is learning to be careful what you accept and believe, because somebody can call you whatever it is, right? When you allow those words to fall inside of you and you accept what's being said, you are now in the belief aspect of it. You now become a believer of that. But you can control that, just like Aldwyn said. You can control that. So it doesn't matter if somebody says X, Y, Z about you. If you can literally stand back in your power and go, that's not me. My identity's not found in that. This person must be having a bad day, just like Aldwyn said. Maybe that's this person's world. That's not my world. That is a way of not allowing those words to, if you will, cast a spell on you. It's when we accept what others have said about us or whatever, that it actually casts a spell on us, and now we own that, if you will. Now, can you break out of that? If you do, because sometimes we're weak, and we do. Yes, you can. But you must be an awareness and recognize that that's happened or whatever. But that is also another way. See, words are very, very extremely powerful. So much so the Bible talks about it. James chapter 1, not chapter 1, I think it's chapter 3. James chapter 3 talks about it all the time in the Bible, where the tongue is a fire, right? And it could be used for life or it could be used for death. It is that powerful. Words have a lot of power. And I think that a lot of people underestimate that. They don't realize that. I mean, I'm not trying to be woohoo here by saying this, but words can cast spells, if you will. They can damage people. It can, so we must. And that's also why the Bible talks about taking every thought captive. Somebody says something about you. Ooh, that thought made it into your head. Recognizing that and going, now I'm going to grab that thought. What does God say about this? And then boom, it's gone, right? That's how you take it captive. And that's how you break out of allowing what somebody else says about you to actually become part of you. And so I don't know if all that makes sense, but there you go. There's another action step for you.
Absolutely. And in landmark education, which is very powerful for me, I must say, in coming into self-love and to being, the person I am today, I loved a landmark. I've done many different modalities of training. I've invested over $1 million in my business and personal development since 2005. So the last 20 years, I've been on this massive personal development journey, and it never stops, right? It's a constant thing. It's like exercise. It's like eating healthy. It's, you don't just do it once and suddenly you're healed, right? It's an ongoing journey, and we will be triggered, right? We will be triggered. We're going to have different reactions as people behave in certain ways. And of course, no one's perfect, right? No one's perfect. Or some people might say, well, we're all perfect in our imperfections, but, we're all dealing with our stuff. It's, it is an ongoing journey. And in Landmark, one of the things they say there is you are nothing and your word. So Ken was talking about how words can cast spells and how words can cause a lot of damage for others and also for ourselves. Like be mindful. Is there domestic violence going on internally with you? Like, are you calling yourself an idiot or I'm so stupid or I like blah, 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 right? Like be mindful of how you are conversing with yourself. Be mindful of what you are saying to yourself. Like when you look in the mirror, here's a great exercise for you. Look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and say, I love you. I truly, truly love you. Do you look in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, more gray hairs. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Oh gosh, blah, 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 right? Just notice the conversations that you have with yourself. And that could be another great thing for you to do to get conscious to that. Rhonda, what are your thoughts on what we just shared?
The word thing, definitely, they're the silent punch. They're literally the silent punch. When someone is derogatory and projecting at someone verbally, it literally can't be seen, the effects of it, but yeah, it goes right in. We hold on to all of that stuff in our bodies, and I see the effects of that with the clients that I have here, either on Zoom or in the the Reiki room. There's so much negative energy that people hold on to that, when it's released, it changes your life. It really does. I don't really know whether a lot of people even realize. Look, I mean, I didn't realize many years ago. Someone said to me, "Oh my God, you're so negative," and I was like, "Really? I'm the most positive person out there." But I didn't realize my language was very negative. And I'm probably still like that, but I'm a lot better than I used to be, because that's the way I grew up speaking. We don't know what we don't know. And there's just so many things that you can do to change, like make small little changes that can help yourself and those around you. The Ho'oponopono, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry. I even say that to myself because we're our own, a lot of women and men are their own worst critic, There's, I didn't get this right and I didn't get that right. But what I like to do, like how you were talking about the positive learnings, Aldwyn, is, you know, I've been a victim for a lot of years, but now I want to step into the power of how can I help other people with this, you know, and that is my positive learning from my childhood. So when you can turn it around to a positive learning, well, this is possibly my path in life, then it really changes that it is easier to forgive somebody. You know, it's a tough one though when someone's been sexually abused, or if they've, you know, been physically abused or mentally abused for a long time. It's really difficult to get to that point. But there are ways to do it, and I tell you, the freedom in that, when you can let go of that in your body, it's amazing. When I actually left my ex-husband, we were together 27 years, and he never abused me ever, which is beautiful. We want that as a normal, right?
That's right.
It's interesting, you know, as a child from that, some women will choose an abuser and other people will not choose an abuser. And I went down that track. But when we separated and split up, I said to him, we're both right. So there's no winners, right? So when we're both right, his perception of me was whatever, and my perception of him was whatever. And in the middle of it all, there was unmet needs for both of us. And that's why, you know, unfortunately, for me, I feel like that's my biggest failure, because all I wanted in my life was to make sure that my kids grew up safe, they had a good education, and that they felt safe in their family. So we had this conversation that we would never put one another down, and that we're both right, because both of our needs weren't being met. And that just brought so much freedom in our separation and divorce, because we could sit there and have birthday parties with our kids, you know, and our children have grown up with a family despite we've been separated and divorced. And, you know, that would be my, you know, if I could get people to that point, that would be a beautiful legacy, because there's too much fighting over the money, fighting over the house, fighting over, you know, he said, she said, I'm right, you're wrong. You know, you're both losers if you end up with an effed up family and, you know, 3 of your kids are in jail. Like that's not any joy. You know, you've got to get to that point where, even if you don't want to see one another, that you don't constantly put one another down, you know, if there is a separation or divorce, because the kids need both of you. Like, you know, I just,
yeah,
right and wrong, winner, loser, you know, I guess a lot of people do have their plights, but it's also important to understand that other people have different opinions and can be very passionate about them. And sometimes you just have to let that go. Yep, that's them, whatever. I don't need to be around them, or, yeah, I still like them and I understand them and I accept them as who they are.
Yes, powerful words there. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Oh, wow. My thoughts are literally, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm drawing a blank here. I had a couple thoughts, but I'm drawing a blank. Give me a second.
I find it interesting. I found your story very interesting, Ken, that you basically shut off emotionally to your dad. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, I did. It happened over time. It literally happened over time, and it progressed as it went, because I constantly saw what's the words I want to use? Oh my gosh. I hate that when that happens.
You saw the abuse or
as I constantly witnessed it, I mean, it's not like it was like night after night after night. No, there were definitely, I would say on average, maybe 2, 3 times in a month where something would happen that would affect her, which then affected me. And just eventually just kind of began taking from me, taking from my heart and different things like that. And like I said, just eventually over time, yeah, I literally shut that off. And
Mm,
that wasn't a moment of a decision. That was something that just happened over time. And then there was finally, yes, there was finally a point to where there was the resolve, like, enough. Like, you're dead to me. And I think when that happened, it wasn't really even a thought. It was a subconscious thing. It was like, we're done.
mm,
No more. We're done. And, from that point on, it's like, yeah, that's the way it was. Looking back at it now, I'm and that's kind of like, that's a trail that I'm on now, is looking inside me, finding roots of things that I see that aren't necessarily okay, you know, finding those roots and really digging down to them and finding out, okay, what are the root causes, doing some soul searching around belief systems that formed in me because of that, doing some soul searching off of different habits and things that I see in my life. I'm like, why is this such a struggle? Right. Now I'm looking at the root causes and the deeper roots of that. And, I have been told through some people that I have talked to recently in the last year to 2 years and opened up and shared some of these things with, because some of these things that I've shared with a couple individuals, some of these things are things that I've never shared with anybody before. I've usually kept a pretty private life when it comes to those kind of things. And but one person mentioned to me that I may have what's it called? CPSD?
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
No, nope, there's one with the C on it, and I think the C stands for something like continual. So
Oh,
there's one that's a C. Um,
CPSD.
Yeah,
Anyone
CPPD.
can that.
Complex.
Huh?
Complex.
Oh, complex. Yeah, maybe.
Complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, complex. But CPTSD. Yeah,
Yeah.
complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
So one person suggested that I go research that and look it up, and I was like, oh, well, now that makes sense. And it's something I never thought of. Do I see myself as like some depressed person or whatever? No, not at all. There's a lot of growth that's happened in my life, especially in the last 2 years specifically. There's a lot of growth that's happened there. So to kind of find that out and go, but it made sense to me. And I was going, okay, so maybe I'm not like seriously like that, but I do notice little nuances in my own life and in my own thoughts and different things like that. And I often am going, where is this rooted? Where's it coming from? So anyhow, yeah, that's what I'll say into that, like a little deeper. So
A lot of us are at that level though, Ken, where we think, oh, I'm okay, I'm doing well, and just the 5 or 10 sessions with somebody doing root cause therapy, limited beliefs, releasing emotions can freaking change your life exponentially.
Yes, it can.
Absolutely. And people are, like personal development, coaching, healing, all of those modalities, there's something in there for you that can really, really, really help, you meaning the audience, that can really help with just, 5 or 10 hours with someone who knows what they're doing and to make huge change in your life. It's incredible. It's like, but you know, a lot of us are just, I'm okay. You know, I can get myself out of bed in the morning. It's like, you know, like my life, even in the last couple of years, like I went down into this deep, you know, I was living by myself in COVID, working by myself at home. I literally pretty much haven't left the house for 5 years. I go out, but, you know, like I'm at home a lot. And my daughter keeps saying, get a cat, get a dog, mum, you know, it'll get you. And I literally stopped walking around, you know, around the block. It's just terrible. So that in itself can bring health problems as well. Like I didn't realize that I was doing, you know, the turtle thing where I was really isolating myself. And when there's this constant, when I got triggered again, and then somebody said to me, so it was a Christmas party thing and someone went nuts and I was at the forefront of the, you know, someone with a shovel kind of thing. And it was very traumatic. And I became suicidal after that. It was awful. It was like just so isolating myself, you know, because I'm such a social person. And you know, there's little kids going through that. There's little kids seeing this on a daily freaking basis, and it's not okay. It's not okay. If you're a parent who's constantly screaming and throwing things, and you've got little children or even teenagers watching that, that's going to be their fight style. I'm sorry, monkey see, monkey do. And we need to do something about it. And it starts with you, you know, each person in whatever situations they're in. And even if it's just, you know, I'm okay, I'm surviving, which is like pretty much where I'm at, you know, it's up to us to step out the door and make those changes that, you know, you start that ripple effect of joy in your life and you know, so it's safe for everyone around you.
I like the fact that you said monkey see, monkey do. I like the fact that you said monkey see, monkey do. Yeah. I really wish that would have been at the top of my head every time my dad told me, do as I say, not as I do. I wish I would have turned around and gone, well, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
I probably would have gotten slapped, but you know, it's just like looking back on it nowadays, it's just like he was an ass. Anyhow, I'm going to get off that bandwagon.
Yeah, well, he's dead now, right? So I guess he came in, he brought his lessons and brought his sperm, and you can thank him for that. Thanks for the seed, Dad.
I can.
Thanks very much.
I can, because now God's got a higher calling on my life. God has empowered me with a very, very powerful message, and God has a mission set on my head. And I am out to touch anybody and everybody that I possibly can with that particular mission and set them free from this food industry. I'll get into that a little later as we close the episode, but God's got me on a mission now. I mean, and plus, you know what? I get the blessing of taking care of my mom and making sure that the rest of her life, she's living a good life. And as a matter of fact, that's one thing I was thinking of just a little while ago, and then I lost the thought. I remember around, I think it was right before my mom finally made the decision to make the divorce final and to go through the proper, like, you know, channels and all the other stuff to get the thing finalized. I remember I was in the hot tub with a friend of mine, and we were chatting it up for that night and stuff like that. We had a couple drinks and stuff. So, I mean, things were flowing, you know, I was openly sharing my heart and stuff like that. You know, sometimes when you have a couple drinks, it's easier to share things like that, right? And I remember I said this to my friend that night. I said, I just want my mom to be free to live a life that she deserves to live. I want her to be treated like the queen that she is. And I mean, we live in this little apartment, but to be honest with you, I feel like I've got that dream. She lives a life of freedom. She pretty much does whatever she wants. She doesn't have to worry about why are you doing this and what are you doing that for? Why'd you buy this and why'd you do this? And she doesn't have to worry about that anymore. She can arrange her room the way she wants. She can arrange the kitchen the way she wants and not have to worry about coming in the kitchen or in her room and things are rearranged back to the way he wanted it. You know, I've got that wish. God gave me that dream, and I'm grateful for that. Because we're all we have, and I'm grateful for that. And we have some great times together, amazing times. So, I mean, I'm extremely blessed. That's for sure.
Wonderful. And that's the thing with every hardship or every challenge you've encountered in your life, whether it's domestic violence or some other challenge, there is always a blessing when we look for it. And I just went 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I've been seeing this everywhere, by the way. The angels are here. I literally
a spider crawling along my wall towards me, so I keep kind of.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, he's saying hello. He's obviously got something to say, that little spider. Hey, he's got something. Well, there you go. See, there's a challenge in action for you, Rhonda. What's coming up for you with that spider? Are you looking at the spider thinking, wow, that's such a cool spider. Look how cool that is. Or is there a little bit of fear coming up for you?
No, I'm going to tell you something. I'm thinking right now, burn the place. That's what I'm thinking.
No. Spiders are beautiful. I love spiders. Anyway, we have a lot of fear around spiders because we have movies that have big spiders in them. But anyway, we have
arachnophobia.
Yeah, thank you. That one.
Sorry, you finished, but I want to go back to something.
Oh, yes, go for it.
What I want to say, finishing on this point, everything that we believe to be true will be true for us, right? So if we say someone's an ass, as you said about your dad, Ken, if we say someone's a bastard or someone's this or someone's arrogant or someone's aggressive, I think back to when I did the DeMartini method with Dr. John DeMartini. Now, the DeMartini method, what we did there is everything that we said negatively about someone else, we then looked into our life. When have I been an ass? When have I been aggressive? When have I been arrogant? We've all done it at different times, right? But it's actually getting conscious to how we do life. And, there's elements of that, right? There might have been snippets of arrogance that have come out. Maybe other people do arrogance 90% of the time, right? And there's certain things that we'll tolerate in our human behavior and certain things that we won't. And, the DeMartini method, it says in here, there are 3 things that any human being has control over: their perceptions, decisions, and actions. If you change the perceptions, you change the decisions and actions that come out of it. So that's a very powerful process, the DeMartini method, because we have our perception of reality, of what's going on, and we can choose how we are going to respond to any situation and what we're going to make that situation mean for us, right? What we're going to make it mean about the other person, or what we're going to make it mean about us. Are we going to choose to look for an empowered meaning around this challenge? The last 3 months, Mum's been in hospital, bedridden, and I tell you what, the last 3 months has been some of the most beautiful moments of connection that I have had with my mum when she has been bedridden than the whole time she was walking in her whole 81 years previously. So I am so grateful for her 3 months where she's bedridden, as an example, because we've had these beautiful moments of connection that I had not experienced before. So there's always a blessing, even when something feels like it's really crap right now. I do believe everything happens for us. There's a learning to be had, and maybe several learnings to be had. And the more you can, even journal about it. What is great about this situation right now? How is it helping you to become stronger? How is it helping you to have more self-love, or maybe more compassion for the other person, or, to be kind, not to put up with any cruelty, of course. If someone's being nasty and they're causing abuse, well, that's something you want to look at getting yourself out of that situation. But you can still have compassion and kindness for that person. You don't have to attack them verbally back. It doesn't have to be domestic violence versus domestic violence, right? It can, you can deal with things peacefully and powerfully without being violent.
Yes.
Rhonda, you have something to share? Over to you.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to, like, sometimes people are too scared to speak up. And, sometimes you can see that somebody is going through a really tough time, and it's not uncommon, one, for someone not to tell anybody. But it's also, my experience has been that when people do know, they don't know what to do. And, I had an experience where I had to dob my dad into the police. And I tell you, I still hold that shame. So your children shouldn't have to be put in that situation. Walking down the street, and your neighbours have heard the kerfuffle and the absolute terror the night before. Sometimes, yeah, I've also seen situations where people in the family do know it's happening and they do nothing. They're just like, oh, he'll be okay the next day. Like, just sweep the shit under the carpet kind of thing. And that's not okay. That person needs support. That person, needs skills and resources to get out of there. They need somebody to give them, they need resilience. They, to make decisions to make that change for themselves. And look, if female or male, if you're out there and you are an angry person, it's not the other person's fault. Take responsibility for yourself. Like, look at yourself in the mirror and say, what has done this? Like, you might have had a shit childhood. Like, pretty well everyone has. And it's difficult when you're wandering around, barking your anger at everybody, and not taking responsibility. You have to take responsibility for yourself, or there's not going to be any change. And I really think as adults we need to look at ourselves before we look at anybody else. And it's something's got to be done. There's just so much hurt and sadness out there,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's often when it, gets to breaking point that people actually walk away from a situation. And it's kind of like, they say put a frog in a pot of water and you boil it and boil it, and the frog will just end up dying there. But if you throw a frog into hot water, it'll just jump straight back out. And often this is like people are in a pot that is boiling and boiling and boiling, and they're actually killing themselves by staying in this situation. But as they say, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make the horse drink. So it's up to the individual, and the most powerful place to stand is to take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. Okay, to stop playing the blame game, to stop being the victim, to actually take responsibility, to take control of your life, and to say enough is enough and look for support. Now, I've just done a very quick Google for domestic violence support services. That's what I've just Googled, and a whole heap of stuff has popped up. Safe Haven Community, Domestic Violence Prevention Centre, Gold Coast Centre Against Sexual Violence. There's White Ribbon. There's domestic violence hotlines. There's domesticviolence.com.au. There's domestic and family violence help in the government. There's so much support for people with domestic violence. There are no excuses for you to stay in your situation, particularly if you don't feel safe. Okay, it's time. And hopefully, whoever's watching this or tuning in right now, if you know someone who needs to hear this information, then please share this video with them, because if it's to be, it's up to me, they say. And, everyone deserves kindness and respect, and your safety is the utmost importance. So, perhaps it's time for you to take that brave step to seek support and to find a way out of your situation. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you don't stop it now, it will flow through the generations. And I do believe that it's up to us to stop a vicious cycle of abuse going down through the generations if you found it happen in your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Awareness and action, and acknowledging if there are people around you that need support,
Yes.
check in with them.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've got that sheet on my website as well under the domestic violence tab. So it's about 2 or 3 pages of lots of different information on, things you can do if you're not running out there in an emergency, things you can do to prepare. Yeah. So you don't have to get any information. You can just download it. I'm not trying to collect email or phone numbers or anything. So it's a free download. But there's also lots of workshops and that coming up as well. So if anyone does want some help with their beliefs and working through that, I can do all that via Zoom. Yeah.
Wonderful. I've popped that link up on the screen. It is regainesteem.com.au. That's REGAIN. Esteem is Rhonda's website, ESTEEM.com.au if you want more information, and you can book a call with Rhonda as well there. Now, how else do you support people, Rhonda, with your work who might be going through some domestic violence? I know there is there are free counselling services out there also that the government do certain counselling services. But you personally, how do you help support people through tough situations?
Yeah, on different days, over the last few years, I've had free sessions for people if they've, been in DV situations, that sort of thing. But essentially, it's the workshops and that I do, which are paid. I do have free meditations, which I do clearings on, which are on the website, which people can book into. There's also a free, it's called the Friendship Movement on Facebook. Women can join that one. But the meditation is free to men and women. They're not DV specific. They're just really services that I do offer in a group situation to people if they're wanting. Meditation has really helped me. I avoided it for years because I didn't know how to relax. Which is one of the symptoms of being hypervigilant, like constantly, feeling like you're in a salt shaker kind of thing. It is very, very powerful though. Even the breath work, like I do breath work. I'm not a breath work facilitator, but I do it on myself because I do have from the years of fear and terror, like I breathe very shallowly, which does affect my health. So I actually do some breath work quite regularly, which helps me, and I definitely recommend it to people to help them, in their own area. I've got a couple of free things on my website, the Friendship Movement, the free meditation, but there's also all the workshops coming up in April as well, which are paid. Yeah.
Fantastic, Rhonda. And there it is again, regainesteem.com.au. And Rhonda, do you have a quote or motto you'd like to share with us today?
So I made one up myself. Don't ever expect a partner to trust and love you when she doesn't feel safe with you. That is quite, from my perspective, very in my court. There's another. The reality is that the only way change comes is when you lead by example, and that's from Anne Wojcicki. How would you pronounce that? Do you know? Anyway.
It's nice to know somebody else slaughters last names and it's not just me.
Well, I lived in, yeah, even though you're from the States, I lived in Germany a couple of years, so I could probably say your surname, Kleinberg.
You got it. That's fairly easy. I've never had anybody mispronounce it. I've had people slaughter it by spelling.
Yeah.
Well, they say it takes a
Berg is B-U-R-G or B-E-R-G.
Actually, the worst one I've had is where they have spelled my name with a P and not a K.
Oh.
Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did you get that wrong?
Yeah. Funny.
Well, they say it takes a highly intelligent person to spell things and say things multiple ways. So there you go. Everyone has their unique spin on things, don't they? Now, we do have a lovely comment here. I'll just share from Erin Hivonen talking about interesting names. I totally agree with everything. I have experienced DV in the past with my first husband, had 2 children with disabilities. The problem is that there are loopholes in our system and court. DV can continue from leaving the relationship when you have children. I wasn't believed by my family how bad the situation was. I had to trust my intuition and leave my home. I had to connect with a domestic phone line to get me into a safe house. It was later disclosed in the Courier newspaper about his, and you have to read the comment on Facebook to read the rest of that because we can't see it here in StreamYard. So it was later obviously disclosed in the Courier newspaper about his something, right? Maybe his trauma, she's saying. I'm not sure what the next word is, but thank you for that comment, Erin, and thank you for sharing your journey. And I'm sorry to hear that that happened. However, it sounds like you're in a much better place now. So well
Erin,
done.
my friend, you are a faithful viewer. You've been commenting on quite a few of our shows, and we just want to say at this very moment that we appreciate you. We appreciate your faithfulness to being in our audience, and so just want to say we appreciate you.
Yeah, and your loyalty. Thank you so much. And people who've joined us on Instagram as well, I want to thank you guys. Shah Graham, Sydney O'Sullivan, Robert Mull, V Creative Art, Kirsten Kasser, The Heart and Soul Hub, Darlene Geiger, Sixth Sense Acupuncture, Victoria Shukra, and others that I cannot see on my screen, those on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., Twitch, X. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Ken, if people want to connect with you, where can they go?
All righty. Well, first of all, if you don't know, or maybe this is your first time watching the show and you have no clue what my background is. So about 13, 14 years ago, I ended up at the heaviest weight of my life. I'm short dude, 5 foot, and I was weighing at 188.5 pounds. I embarked on a journey to lose weight, but not via a diet. I've lost 62.5 pounds and I'm kept it off for 7+ years now, all without a diet and having that be sustainable. And that's what I teach other people how to do. So right now, I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you break free from those sugar addictions, the snacking issues, the hunger issues, the emotional eating, and help you to lose that last 20 to 30 pounds, all in 3 short phases with me. You will be equipped with an empowered mindset shift, number 1. Number 2, you will be equipped to see past the industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls, the food industry lies, by the way. And number 3, you will be equipped to see past the marketing deceptions of this industry. Look, guys, they put it all over the packages. They tout it to be healthy. They say, hey, it's only 140 calories. Hey, great source of fiber, da-da-da-da-da, all this. And people are out there buying into it, hook, line, and sinker. They have no clue that what they are buying into is marketing deception. And I help people see through all of that in 3 phases with me. And the boot camp has literally been valued at $1,500. And right now it is going for $97 while the price lasts. I don't know. I'm going to be raising that soon. My coach keeps pushing me and hinting. So jump aboard that for $97. Look, guys, you got nothing to lose but those extra pounds, and you got everything to gain in the right way. And so to find the link to that boot camp, as well as 3 other links to connect with me, you can go to www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. So the word mastery is spelled Mastery, and then weight loss, I don't think I need to spell that out to you guys, .com/connect. The other three links you'll find, the other three buttons you'll find in there, the boot camps at the very top. Then you'll find a button in there to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lots of great content there. You'll find a button in there to friend request me on Facebook, and you'll find a button on there to book a discovery call with me to chat. So if you got a few questions or whatever, book that discovery call. Hey, that's free. So there you go. That's how you can connect with me. Now, my quotes today, and I do have two, because when I pulled these up, I saw the one and then I read through and I was like, ooh, there's a second one, and I'm going to share it. So the first one is this: abuse thrives in silence. Speak up, break the cycle, and reclaim your life. Author unknown. The second one: never let someone who contributes so little to your life control so much to it. There's so much of it. And also author unknown.
I love those. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Rhonda. And I just want to backtrack a little bit on the CPTSD that we mentioned earlier, complex PTSD that Ken realized that he had with his father being abusive to his mother. So what it actually is, just to clarify, complex post-traumatic stress disorder can result from experiencing chronic trauma, such as prolonged child abuse or domestic violence. It's closely related to PTSD and borderline personality disorder. And here it actually says it's manageable with psychotherapy, which is talk therapy, and medication. It says here, I don't necessarily agree with the medication.
Forget the medication.
However, talk therapy is very powerful, and counseling is very powerful to be able to talk out your issues. I highly recommend that. And I know I've had PTSD from, being a journalist and turning up at accident scenes before the ambulance and before police officers.
Ooh, wow.
From previous, as I mentioned, ex-boyfriend strangling me. And, we've all had our stuff happen in our life, right? We've all had some kind of trauma generally, whether we're conscious or not conscious of it. Usually before the age of 7, something major happens and we make it mean something. And then we end up being a sheltered version of ourselves for the rest of our lives to survive life. And this is where we get very shut down, often from a young age. And it really takes something to come back to ourselves, to come back to who we really are, to come back to the magnificent being that you are as a spiritual being having a human experience, and to not let the human experience get you down when others are being nasty. Just get that they're just dealing with their stuff, or they're not dealing with their stuff. And then it's up to you as to whether you're going to put up with what you're seeing in your environment, because your environment is utterly crucial to how you do life. We've got RM Ramesh here. Rajput, hello, good evening, dear sister. Good evening, RM Ramesh. Rajput, good to see you. Jim Vuzis has joined us as well. Nice to see you there. Beautiful muscles there, Jim Vuzis, talking about fitness, etc. Jim Vuzis is someone who's got some amazing, he's actually one of my clients from Melbourne. Joined the Mass Media Mastery Program years ago, and he does bodybuilding, I believe, because his profile shot on Instagram is all I can see is muscles. So well done, Jim. You obviously worked hard at that. Good job there. Now, for those who want to connect with me, you can hop along to Linktree/Aldwyn. Here it is on the screen, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. And in there, you'll find some free media resources. You'll find a link to the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page, which is a free live video gratitude challenge and good news challenge that we do every single month. It's free marketing for you. It is a fantastic challenge. We've been hearing such great reports of people who do it, who actually share gratitude and good news. No matter what is happening in life, there's always something we can be grateful for. And there's learnings in all the darkness that you might be feeling right now. If you're going through a DV situation, there are definitely some things that you can learn from this situation. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a breakthrough at the end of every breakdown. However, it takes your willingness to be able to move through this, to seek the support, to do whatever it takes to get yourself out of a DV situation if you're in it, to do whatever it takes. Reach out to Rhonda. Rhonda's amazing. She's been through it herself. She knows what it's like. Reach out to people like Rhonda. You can find her again. I'll just pop her link up quickly here in case you missed it earlier. You will find Rhonda at regainesteem.com.au. Reach out to her if you would like some support. And back to me for a moment. So back to that link there. Now, some of you might have seen I've actually launched a co-author book called Fear to Freedom, Conscious Creators Manifesting Magic. I'm doing this with Leanne Clune. We have 9 authors confirmed in the book. We have just 2 spots left for our co-author book project, which we're aiming to get out by June 25. It looks like one just went here, one's gone, and so I'll chat with you later about that, Rhonda. So it's going to be a phenomenal book. We have some extraordinary people in this Fear to Freedom book, and it's rocking. It's going to be amazing. So, helping to share these stories of how we've moved from fear to freedom, how we've overcome challenges, how we've come out the other side of it. So if you do want more information, then reach out to me. Looks like there might be just one spot left now. I'll get you the information. But no pressure whatsoever. We know that the book attracts the right kinds of people who have the right energy for this book, and it's so exciting because it's going to be a powerhouse project and out in the next few months. Very, very cool. So reach out, send me a private message. That's my Facebook page there. You'll see Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen. I have my YouTube channel, etc. You see all my social links at that link. So go to linktree/Aldwyn. You'll see everything there, all the cool stuff. Now, my quote for today, actually I've got 2 quotes that I really love that I found. First one is, just because you have a past with someone doesn't mean you should have a future with them. Just because you have a past with someone doesn't mean you should have a future with them. You can be thankful for the learnings. The other one is, whatever makes you feel bad, leave it. Whatever makes you smile, keep it. Isn't that nice? So there you go. If you're not feeling good, just let it go, move on, bless and release, and onwards and upwards. This is the journey of life, the roller coaster ride of life. And, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. If you're not enjoying the journey, then it's up to you to shift it, okay? And seek support. Lots of support out there. It's been an absolute pleasure here on episode 99. We've got an epic episode 100 show coming up very soon. Cannot wait to share that with you. We've got a whole lot of guests coming on our 100th show. And so stay tuned. Keep tabs on the Total Truth Show Facebook page. We're also on Spotify. We're on BitChute. We're on Rumble. So check them out there. You'll see all our previous episodes. And I'm so grateful. 3 years on or so now, Ken, that we've been doing this show. We've never met in person. And it's been an extraordinary collaboration. And here, 100 shows. So we're going to have an awesome celebration for our next show. And the topic is going to be the truth about freedom. The truth about freedom. It's going to be a hot one. We've got Leanne Clune. We've got Dame Rita Rose confirmed. We've got another special guest. I'm not going to let you know who it is, and a whole lot of others. So it's going to be very cool. Yes, Ken?
I know who it is, but I'm not going to say who it is either. So, but I know.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yes, Rhonda.
And just one last thing for the DV. I discovered an area on my iPhone the other day. There's an SOS emergency thing that you can set up in the settings. I ended up with 3 people at my door when I accidentally triggered it, which for some reason, when my screen went blank, I didn't know I'd done it. But there's a definite thing. Google how to do it for your phone, or if it's available on Samsung, it's definitely available on iPhone, that you can set up people to, and I think it automatically rings an ambulance. But you don't really want to be in a, situation where you're using that. However, it is there.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Get out before then.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So there is lots of support, guys. And look, if you are going through a tough situation, I feel you. We've all had, well, at least 1 in 3 people statistically that we know have had some form of domestic violence happen, male or female. So if you're going through it, you're not alone. Seek support, get empowered, get informed, and get yourself into a safe and joyful situation, because life is way too short to be living in drama. Let's face it, and way too.
Your life in fear. I mean, there's things you can do to be happy, and
yes,
you deserve that.
You deserve that. Absolutely, you are worth it. You are. Yeah, this is the thing. The 3 biggest fears that people have: I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, or I don't belong, right? Most people have some version of one of those three things, and you are absolutely worth it. You absolutely belong. You are loved. You are extraordinary. Thank you so much for joining us here on Total Truth Show, episode 99, The Truth About Domestic Violence. Thank you, Rhonda, for being our special guest. It's been fantastic to have you on our show. And Ken Kleinberg, of course, my co-host. Always a pleasure. So sending you much love. Thanks for joining us. If you love what you've seen, let us know, what did you get out of this show in the comments, and share the love. If you know someone who's going through a DV situation, please share this video with them. You never know who you might inspire to create change in their life. Thank you once again. Any final words, Ken, Rhonda, before we wrap up?
No, thank you for the opportunity, Aldwyn and Ken. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Rhonda. You're amazing. Thank you. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world. We'll see you next time. Episode 100 coming up. Total Truth Show. We'll see you then. Bye for now. Bye.